So we spent way too long talking about Medicare for All last time already.
Wait.
Keep going? No, we shouldn't. We should stop.
We should stop. It hurts.
It's stupid and expensive, and it won't work.
Yeah, we're done with Medicare or Medicaid for all or whatever.
Right on.
What's the next part here? Housing
as a human right. It's even worse.
There's like a little clip art of a house on the issues page. there should be like a stick family standing outside, and they've all got big smiles on their face, and there's a flower growing next to them,
and a man in a blue suit with a gun pointed at their heads.
And then one of those little astronauts with the little sparklies that follow it when you move your mouse. Actually,
that's totally what we need.
I think we made that comment about the Trump page when we did the 2016 elections.
Possibly.
All right, so let's see. Housing in the United States has become a playground for wealthy developers. I don't think playground is the right word here. I think it's more like desperate investment attempt. But let's go ahead and go with playground. For wealthy developers, instead of a leg up towards the American dream.
In New York City specifically, money from...
Yes, that's where we're having the housing crisis.
In these 2 square miles of America. Wow, that just tells all, isn't it? She is a complete moron.
and just a bit out of touch.
Yeah, a bit, just a bit.
Look at this desolate rural wasteland that is New York City.
Well, no, she's not complaining about that. She's complaining that housing in New York City is expensive.
It's New
Jackass.
York City. Isn't New York and like Hong Kong 2 of the most expensive real estate places in the world?
Yes.
So what? I guess that makes it a problem if there's areas that are more expensive to live in than others. That sounds normal.
Specifically in New York City.
Yeah, specifically. That's the word. I'm looking at it right now, and it says specifically. I can't believe that's there. So money from luxury real estate developers has taken over our political establishment. No, that would be money from the health and war industry, but okay, whatever.
Well, they do spend a lot of time in New York.
I guess so. Leading to luxury rezonings that push out small businesses and working families. No, the small businesses weren't there. That's why there's luxury rezoning.
Well, no, they can. She's talking about.
There's plenty of restaurants in New York that are small business. Is she thinking of specific industries that, like? I don't know what businesses she wants in New York, but I'm pretty sure that just based on the fact that it's become a hub of many different and expensive things, that yes, you would have luxury rezoning.
It's just
that means people want to spend money to move there, or at least under normal market circumstances.
Yes, it's a question of demand for something that has a very limited supply, and. I don't know what to say. What is her plan to uproot half of Wall Street and put it in a different city? How is she going to reduce the concentration of wealth in New York City?
We will disperse all of that over every inch of open land that is left in America, which may or may not be a very large amount.
Does she understand what economies of scale are?
No.
Okay.
Did I answer that too quickly? I don't feel I answered that too quickly.
No, you're all right. Yeah, you're fine.
Working New Yorkers can't afford to stay in the communities their families have called home for generations. Well, some of them can, clearly.
You don't have a right to...
To live wherever you want. Okay, look, if they want to lower the price of living in New York so that I could go there right now at my wages...
No, you can't go there. Only people that have called it home for generations can go there. You're not permitted.
Well, how do you know I haven't called it home?
I know you.
Yeah, you do. I have nothing but contempt for New York. We went there once.
Ever since that one time that we went there and we couldn't find gas, and then it was 4 a.m. and it was a traffic jam, and there was an ambulance behind us that was like, "Go over somewhere." We're like, "There's nowhere to go." I guess they're gonna die.
Sorry, buddy. It's New York. What can I do?
Gridlock. Families are rent burdened in the city of New York is experiencing the highest levels of homelessness since the Great Depression. Shelters go up and housing remains empty. Does she know what rent control is?
No. Well,
Okay.
if she does, she thinks that it's a thing that's good and works.
There are 3 times the amount of empty luxury units as there are people experiencing homelessness in New York City.
So why don't you just let them squat then? I don't see what the problem is.
Well, I mean, she probably would let them squat, honestly.
Yeah, I know.
But her answer is that she believes that housing is a right, which is not an answer.
Which means that she would let them squat. So
Yeah, and that Congress must tip the balance away from housing as a gambling chip for Wall Street banks and fight for.
what does she mean, gambling chip?
She doesn't know what she means by gambling chip.
These are soft
I guess
words.
she means that investment for the purpose of flipping a property is a gamble.
I mean, by that definition, any investment is a gamble. Me going to McDonald's is a gamble because
I know, because everything is entrepreneurship at some level. But she does. I mean, she's missing the. She's missing the point that the reason that all of this wealth is concentrated in New York City and Washington D.C. and that area, the area between them, is because of government regulation that requires companies to, it's just I don't even know how to respond to this. It's like,
well no,
this
I
is
mean
not-
it is.
She neither gives a question nor an answer. It's just
Well, no,
she's
she gave
just
a
rambling.
question. She said, "So what do we do now?" But then she doesn't answer the question. She believes that
No,
housing is a right. Congress must tip the balance away. Yada yada. Fight for accessible housing.
So this is funny because these socialist people, they always say that they want accessible housing, and then whenever anybody tries to build it, they say it's not accessible enough, and so they block the project. This happens constantly.
Yeah, I mean, I could go myself. I could buy like $1,000 worth of lumber and build several really small huts that someone could live under and avoid the wind and rain. But what do you want? Like, everybody gets a palace
Yeah, that's basically what she wants.
and food stamps. A palace and food stamps. I wonder if she actually says. Let's read on. Congress has allowed most of our existing housing investments to go towards benefiting the wealthy. Alexandria supports extending tax benefits to working and middle-class homeowners. Didn't the Social Democrats get angry at Donald Trump for wanting to do that?
Probably. I don't know. I don't usually pay attention to what Trump does or what the morons who yell at him also do.
Expanding the low-income housing tax credit, what, to include everyone?
Housing, not sheltering the homeless.
What's the difference?
She means free houses for anyone who doesn't have one. And permanently funding the National Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
How?
Well, what you do is you print money until the dollar is completely devalued, and then you buy a bunch of houses right before it's devalued, and you give those houses to people that will destroy the houses.
And then they starve to death.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody starves to death because she's hyperinflated the dollar to worthlessness.
Well, not
which
everyone.
destroys-
I mean, not everyone's dead in Venezuela yet.
I mean, not yet. But I mean,
You have to build these things over time.
by refusing money from luxury real estate developers, Alexandria can be trusted to fight for fair, inclusive housing policies that upend the overdevelopment that real estate speculators have imposed on New Yorkers. She is so completely focused on 2 square miles of the entire U.S. that she has no idea what she's talking about.
Well, you can't break all the eggs without a few omelets.
Yeah, that's how that saying goes. Let's move on.
Okay, so I don't know. The housing one, it's like it seems way too.
Anyone who believes that a house is a right is an idiot.
it seems way too self-evident on its face that everything she says solves no problem.
Well, they just create. I mean,
look, I know Detroit is a dump, but you can buy a house in Detroit for $2,000, so you can find shelter cheaply if you're willing to have cheap shelter.
but she's not interested in sheltering the homeless. She's just interested in housing the homeless.
It's a house. It's a house for $2,000. It's going to require a bit of work, yeah, but like
No. Housing, not sheltering. The government needs to build houses for these people.
there are houses built. What the government should be focusing on is doing things like fixing the fact that it's dangerous to live in Detroit. And then all the people that...
Since when is enforcing laws the purview of government? That's crazy. The purpose of government is to give everyone houses and medical care, not to protect their rights and to protect them from hostile actors.
You're saying that like you're being sarcastic, but that's just not the case. It's not sarcastic at all anymore.
No, it's getting there. It's pretty bad at this point.
That's just outright how they do it now. When was the last time you saw a law obeyed? I mean,
3 felonies a day, man. So here's one that we might be able to agree with, assuming she doesn't fill in stupid stuff.
A peace economy?
Yeah.
All right, let's
go through this. Since the invasion of Iraq in 2003, the United States has entangled itself in war and occupation throughout the Middle East and North Africa. Okay, true. As of 2018, we are currently involved in military action in Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia.
Okay, so far, I'm seeing where I think she's going, and I'm liking it.
I don't see where she's going, other than... Let's keep going. Hundreds of thousands of civilians in these countries have been killed either as collateral damage from American strikes or from the instability caused by U.S. interventions. Millions more have fled, contributing to the global refugee crisis. This action damages America's legitimacy as a force for good. Okay, she's already off the rails.
Continued action damages America's legitimacy, creates new generations of potential terrorists, erodes American prosperity. Well, I mean, she's saying stuff that you would never hear on CNN, I guess. Let's see. In times when we're told there's not enough money, I don't know who's saying that.
Idiots.
They're willing to spend a ton of money, so clearly nobody's saying there's not enough. I mean, you and I have been saying there's not enough.
No. What they're saying is that there's not enough money to give every living person in the United States a house in New York City.
I mean, I guess not, but I wouldn't expect that.
There is not enough money for that. There's not enough wealth in the entirety of the galaxy for that.
There might not be enough room for that. I mean...
No, it can be done. Just build higher.
Everyone gets their own skyscraper.
Well, not their own skyscraper, but like their own 3 floors of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
All we have to do is demolish all of the historically significant buildings in New York City and rebuild skyscrapers, and we're good to go.
But we need to rebuild them as the highest skyscrapers ever built, because that's not...
And when I say we need to rebuild them, I mean the government needs to rebuild them, because only the government can build skyscrapers.
But we are the government.
And the government is us. Government is just the people that we choose to shoot in the back of the head together.
Well, no. That's the government is the exact opposite of that. They are the ones shooting. Democrats seem to find the cash to fund a $1.1 trillion fighter jet program or a $1.7 trillion nuclear weapon modernization program. The costs are extreme. Pentagon's budget for 2018 is $700 billion.
All to continue fighting an endless war on terror and refighting the Cold War with a new arms race that nobody can win.
Well, I mean, we don't know that, but, I mean, we should probably avoid that. Okay, so...
Sure.
So I guess, so far, I'm not really, like, hating on much of what she's saying here, but she hasn't proposed anything yet, so...
No, not yet. She's just going to say that we need to reduce...
Okay, so in this next paragraph, we have a social democrat calling out to the Constitution. According to the Constitution, the right to declare war belongs to the legislative body, and yet many of these global acts have never been voted on by Congress. Okay, thank you. In some cases, we've even acted unilaterally without the backing of the United Nations. Okay, this is where she'll go off the rails.
America should not be in the business of destabilizing countries, except its own. While we may see ourselves as liberators, the world increasingly uses... We must end the forever war by bringing the troops home, ending airstrikes that perpetuate terrorism. Bring the troops home, heal the wounds, repair the image, reunite the families, unseparate the people that are separated. Okay, so this is not too bad.
Yeah, apart from the reference to the UN, not bad at all.
I assume that the main problem with this is that she doesn't mean it.
Maybe. I mean, but that was one of the things people said about Bernie Sanders. Like he was anti-war in his rhetoric, but
yeah.
I mean, I can't really believe that a social democrat is really anti-war. They would just redirect the aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would her plan be to bring all the troops home and then have them stick guns in people's faces and tell them to build houses? I don't know.
Possibly.
I think that there's a certain level of social democrat that would be all about this and just be like, okay, cool, she wants to end war, that's great, and that's cool. But I think that it gets to a certain point where, like, you're the one running for political office, and then it's more like, well, yeah, I'm against the war, but I'm all about violence.
Yeah, I guess. I mean...
But let's give her that one. It's because
she
went through the whole thing without really saying anything objectionable, other than obeisance to the United Nations.
Yeah.
A federal jobs guarantee.
Free jobs for all.
What is that? Just think of how ridiculous that is. Free jobs for all.
Alexandria endorses a federal jobs guarantee because anyone who is willing and able to work shouldn't struggle to find employment. A federal jobs guarantee would create a baseline standard for employment that includes a $15 minimum wage pegged to inflation, full health care, and child and sick leave.
Wait, if it's pegged to inflation, it can't be a $15 minimum wage.
I know. There's a lot wrong with a federal jobs guarantee.
Well, okay, so first off, just the first sentence. Willing and able to work shouldn't struggle to find employment. All right, but what if no one's willing to employ them?
Well, then the federal government employs them.
Yeah, so the federal government always has to be willing to employ. So basically, there's no reason for me to really bother looking hard for a job.
It basically means that if you are doing anything that makes you actually work and pays you near the $15 minimum wage, then you may as well just take the federal jobs guarantee and slack off.
Yeah, because you're guaranteed that job.
Yeah,
and if
it's yours, it's your job.
And you know how those jobs work. If they fire you, fire in quotes, but if they fire you from one job, they basically just move you to another.
They have to.
Until you end up in a position where you don't have to really do much of anything at all. And
the word is guarantee.
It is the word. I mean, it's and it's capitalized too, so extra emphasis on.
I mean, this is... Okay, look. Wages are not decided by magic.
Well, how sure
are
you?
I just want 100%.
Because, I mean, can you falsify magic? Can you disprove magic?
Wages are not chosen by magic. The employer has very little actual leeway to choose the wage that he pays.
Yeah, if they...
Because most types of labor are fungible to a certain degree. And so, like, if I'm going to do coding, if I'm, even something like writing, computer code is fairly fungible. I could work for any number of firms, and therefore all of those firms are going to compete for the labor of people who can code. If you're building cars, you could build cars for any number of companies. All of these wages are tied to the discounted marginal value product of the actual work. And therefore, simply guaranteeing that everybody gets a $15 minimum wage for some random... I mean, we've done a federal jobs guarantee already, and it involved people picking up rocks and moving them from one place to another and back again. That job is not worth $15 an hour because it doesn't produce anything.
Is it worth?
And that's what a federal jobs guarantee would inevitably end up as.
Is it worth $15 an hour pegged to inflation?
No, it's not worth that either. Of course.
Wait, no. Actually, she doesn't say a $15 an hour job. She just says $15 minimum wage. So, are we just going to give people $15 and tell them they have a job?
That would be cheaper.
It might make more sense in the long run.
It would make more sense in the long run. I mean, if you're going to have a universal basic income and have it be $15 a year, that's and then get rid of all other welfare. That works. I'm for that.
I mean, a federal jobs guarantee is actually a dumber idea than just having a universal basic income. Because at the very least, if someone has a universal basic income, they don't have to do a job. They don't have to go do some federal job. So you're not drawing people away who might potentially work to make more money from the private sector.
Hypothetically, with this federal jobs guarantee, if you don't do the job, they can deny you the pay, right? Like, they can say, you're not working. So, like, hypothetically, like, in the end, what would happen is that the people who don't feel like actually working would somehow unionize, and then they would get free $15 minimum wage per hour jobs that don't require any actual effort. Now that's like, hypothetically, if it's a jobs guarantee and we use that to pull people off of welfare, that would work, except for the fact that the federal government doesn't have jobs that are $15 an hour productive for people to do.
And
making them up would just be wasteful.
And you're going to have to convince me that a federally guaranteed job that's paying $15 an hour isn't welfare for a start.
Well, if you have to be doing something, like right, if you have to be like, say that the $15 an hour minimum wage federal job is that you sit at a desk in front of a door and greet people walking in to some building, right? Mm-hmm. You at least have to do that. You can't just like sit.
You at least got to be present
Xbox.
And accounted for.
Present, accounted for, and you have to do the thing that is assigned to you as your job. Again, before they unionize and decide that work is too difficult for a $15 hour minimum wage job.
Before they unionize and decide that work sucks.
The point is that if these $15 an hour federal jobs don't actually produce anything, then all they're going to do is steal production from everybody else, and that's basically inevitable.
Yeah.
And because of the incentive, because of the incentive that like, a smaller and smaller fraction of people will be doing actual productive work, that will encourage more people to step away from actual productive work and just do the easy work that is $15 an hour guaranteed. Pegged to inflation, so that as the capital structure of the United States collapses and the money supply expands without limit, they keep getting paid more and more, and everybody else gets paid less and less because they're being skimmed off of to pay all of these people to not do anything.
Yeah, and when you get to about the $15 an hour area, you're probably looking at that and saying, well, shoot, why am I working hard?
I mean, the question, of course, is why not $30 an hour? Why not $50? Why not $100?
Yeah, and also, apparently a guarantee for public workers and a basic benefits package, including health care and child care.
Yeah.
So like, if you're working $15 an hour in the private sector and doing something actually productive, but you don't have health care, you've immediately got a reason to go work for...
The last sentence is perfect. By investing in our own workforce, we can lift thousands of American families out of poverty and then move them back into poverty.
Yeah, well, this specifically takes people out of positions where they could avoid poverty and puts them in a position where they will inevitably end up in poverty.
It's positions where they inevitably end up in poverty and also drag other people into poverty with them.
It's like, how many people can we put on this rubber sheet before everyone else slides down?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, you're going to like the next one.
Yeah, I know.
Gun control and assault weapons ban. We had an assault weapons ban. Did it do anything?
She has a picture of a double-barreled shotgun.
And a lock.
Not... Right, but a double-barreled shotgun is not an assault weapon under any definition of assault weapon, except for morons' definition of assault weapon.
What?
Like, a double-barreled shotgun is 2 tubes and a nail. And 2 tubes and 2 nails. That's a double-barreled shotgun.
Why the picture of the lock, though? I don't understand that at all.
She's going to lock all the guns up. With locks.
Okay, I mean, God, she really did, pull this out of Microsoft Word clip art, didn't she?
It'll be like the next one will be like a picture of Clippy. Is like, it seems like you're trying to destroy America. Can I help you with that? School shootings have become all too routine in America.
I don't think
In
routine
urban
is the
areas
right
like the
word.
Bronx and Queens, gun violence is a regular reality in many communities, despite massive gun control in those communities.
Mostly
In
Chicago.
some states, New York is really bad too. Like, like getting a gun in New York is so difficult. I mean, legally, but it's not very hard to do if you do it in the black market. Just expensive. In some states, it's easier for teenagers to buy assault weapons than it is for families to get health insurance. False. Every year, more than 15,000 Americans die due to gun violence, excluding suicides. Okay, so here's a good thing that she does. She actually excludes suicides.
Yeah, most people don't tell you that.
Most people don't do that. They're like 30,000 gun violence deaths, and it's like, yeah, but more than half of those are suicides. And so, like, I mean, it's not the same phenomenon. It's like, okay, so at least she cuts that out. But you notice that a problem that kills 15,000, and it's like most of these deaths are gang members shooting other gang members. It's not like she has no notion. Of course, she's from New York. She has no notion of what American gun culture is like and how there are multiple different facets to the gun culture in the U.S. She just sees guns as some homogeneous blob to be gotten rid of for her own, sense of smug self-satisfaction.
Yeah. Well, that's how most.
I mean,
that's how everyone.
Important to note. It's important to note that that even if 15,000 Americans die due to gun violence, excluding suicides, between 500,000 and 3 million Americans defend themselves every year with guns. Like, it's. I mean, that's the point to be made. Is that guns are extremely useful in self-defense as well, and I don't know. In America, gun violence is occurring at a rate 10 times higher than other countries which happen to have gun bans. I mean, this is where she messes it up, right? Because, like, she cuts out suicides from the gun deaths thing, which is good. But then she's like, gun violence is at a rate higher than other countries that all have basically have gun bans. It's like, but what about total violence? Oh, it's not nearly 10 times higher. It's way less. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, plus it's like...
And then she says high-income countries, like high-income means something for what the rate for gun violence is.
We don't care about violence in low-income countries.
And she just got done castigating high-income people for, entrepreneurially investing in housing. So, like, which is it, black or white? Are the rich evil or not?
Well, yes, obviously.
Clearly.
If you're here reading this page and you're not us, then the answer to that is yes.
Sure.
With every mass shooting, we see lots of thoughts and prayers from our politicians, but continue to see no action. No, I don't. That's exactly what I don't want to see is action. They keep. You're doing it. You're doing.
I would like to see action, like getting rid of the ban on new automatic weapons, getting nationwide right to carry. Let's see, elimination of the de facto registration of the 4473 forms in replacement with a not anonymous but identity scrubbed background check system. Things like that. I could go for those kinds of action.
Republicans ban studying gun violence and write legislation.
No. They banned the CDC from studying gun violence.
Is there a story to that, or?
That's the story, is that the CDC is banned from doing partisan studies on gun violence because they basically were doing a bunch of studies where the outcomes were already determined. Every other organization can still do studies on gun violence, just not the CDC, which kind of makes sense because gun violence is not an actual, like, pathogen. It's just something that people, like, metaphorically turn into a pathogen because they're morons.
Owning people who want to own guns clearly have some kind of mental disease.
Yeah, independence.
Free will.
The NRA, a vehicle for gun manufacturers that disguises itself as a civil rights organization. No, it is a civil rights organization. Well, sure. I mean, companies buy ads in the NRA magazines for their guns.
I guess so.
This is perfectly normal. It's like the ACLU like having like an ad for like a criminal defense attorney in their
You mean being a
like,
vehicle for lawyers?
a vehicle for people who defend the worst people in our society.
That's a good way to put it.
Right? I mean, if it weren't for these defense attorneys, these people would be convicted of crimes. Therefore, they are guilty of crimes. It's like, wait a minute, that's putting the cart before the horse in like 17 different ways.
You mean like this sentence
whatever.
is run by a man who helped arm narco-terrorists in what became the Iran-Contra scandal?
Is she talking about Wayne LaPierre?
I guess so.
I don't think... I'm not sure that he actually had... I don't know. I don't know Wayne LaPierre that much, but she does realize that like NRA members vote on the leader of the organization regularly, right? That the organization has democratic safeguards, and first off, this is narco terrorists in the Iran Contra scandal is like, okay. First off, narcotics shouldn't be illegal, so anyone who's trying to make narcotics illegal is already an enemy and probably should be shot. Therefore, right, narco terrorists are the good guys because they're basically trying to. I mean, I'm not saying that seriously, but like. I mean,
when they're not shooting people,
she even if they are shooting, what if they're shooting the people that are trying to make narcotics illegal?
Point
right?
taken.
I mean, like, yeah, exactly. That's my point.
We're just trying to sell stuff.
I guess my point is that this whole chunk is entirely dyed by her opinion of these organizations and people already, and so she's basically writing about them in a way that makes their badness a fait accompli. You know, they don't have any way to defend themselves because she doesn't permit them to have one. Instead of fighting to save American lives, politicians bend over backwards to protect billionaire-backed gun lobby. No, the gun lobby is backed by over 100 million gun owners in America who use them to defend themselves every year. Proposed measures that would increase gun sales, which is a good thing, such as the incredulous proposal, which that's not what incredulous means, to arm teachers. Because when someone is shooting up a school, you want to wait 10 to 15 minutes for the police to arrive and decide whether they want to actually enter the school, rather than have people... I mean, like, you know, this is just one of those things that you can't get around. These people think guns are bad, therefore guns are bad, therefore guns are bad, so...
Yeah, it's arguing in circles at this point, because...
That's all that she can do, is argue in a circle. Because she yeah.
There's literally no case you could present that wouldn't be, well, you have to discount any case made because guns bad.
Oh boy, this next paragraph is fun. Alexandria knows that it doesn't have to be this way. Even in the United States, cities and states with strong gun laws have managed to cut gun violence significantly without running afoul of the Second Amendment.
Is she insane?
Incorrect. The Chicago has run afoul of the Second Amendment. D.C. has run afoul of the Second Amendment. New York City, if it weren't for... I mean...
And also they didn't manage to cut gun violence.
Well, even if they managed to cut gun violence, they didn't manage to cut total violence. And, I mean... It's... If people are unable to defend themselves, then they can easily be dominated by lesser forms of violence as well. If you aren't allowed to defend yourself with a gun, then a person with a knife can dominate you, rob you, and take all your stuff. If you aren't allowed to defend yourselves, I mean, the problem here is that what a gun does is it makes it so that even a feeble, handicapped person can defend himself or herself. Whereas, lesser weapons make it so that your ability to defend yourself is dependent upon your own athleticism in a much greater degree. Like, do you want to get into if you were a 76-year-old woman in a wheelchair, do you want to get in a knife fight with a 16-year-old, gang member on PCP? No. That would be a losing state for you. But if you have what's known as the equalizer, then even the 76-year-old woman in a wheelchair has at least a fighting chance against the 16-year-old gang member with a knife, or even if the gang member has a gun, because well, gang members don't get to the range very often.
It's just, I've made the case before where you practically have to be anti-woman, anti-handicapped, and anti-elderly to propose something as ridiculous as just banning guns outright. Like okay, as a store owner of any size, age, or gender, or any capability, it doesn't matter, because like, what do you do if someone decides to come in and rob you in any way? If you don't have a gun,
well, you call men with guns.
there is that, but I mean, like,
and then hope that they can figure out who shot you.
Like someone comes into your store with let's say a gun or a knife. It doesn't really matter, but just to make the case most clear, like you're in the most danger, we'll say gun. And they stick a gun in your face, and they want everything in the register, and they just walk in and they just start taking stuff. And no, it's even worse than that. Forget it. They come in with no weapon whatsoever. Just some guy walks in, and he just walks up to you at the register, opens his coat, and just starts like grabbing candy bars and sticking them in his coat and just looking at you. And then he just closes his coat and walks out the door. Like what do you do to defend your property in that situation? Do you grab the guy by the collar and start smacking him around? Do you pull a baseball bat from behind your counter and go after him? Are you going can you chase him?
You call men with guns or possibly tasers.
Well, can you chase him out of the store? Now, here's the thing. If this person decides to do this every day, and you have no way to really overpower them, and the police won't let you, the police won't send someone to your store to stay there and stop this guy when he comes in, what recourse do you have to really convince this person to stop coming to your store every day and take stuff if you can't do anything to overpower this person? I
mean, eventually you can probably convince the police to have someone there at the time that he usually shows up and arrest him.
Yeah, eventually.
Maybe.
But
maybe. They're not obligated to do that.
Yeah, but then this guy comes in, looks in, sees a police officer, and just doesn't come in that day. And he waits a couple weeks, and then comes back after a couple of weeks. He could just keep doing this, and there's no way for you to defend your property. And then you have the case where it's like, okay, do I just grab this guy and kill him in cold blood with my bare hands in my store? And then all of a sudden, it's like, now it's your problem. The guy was clearly coming in and taking your stuff every day. And,
Look, she's a democratic socialist. She doesn't believe in property.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes it simpler. I guess I could understand why. I mean, maybe that person is just really hungry and doesn't have a federally guaranteed job or a place to live.
I mean, she's a socialist. She's quite literally a slaver. I mean, she doesn't care about you or your property. She intends to enslave you.
Yeah.
So why should we disarm ourselves in the face of someone who hopes to enslave us?
I like where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you should all be disarmed. No.
I will disarm myself as soon as the police and government do. And criminals. As soon as the police, government, and criminals all have completely disarmed themselves, I will consider disarming myself. But I make no promises.
I bet, that's actually a good stance to have, because then you're making everyone happy, because everyone wants you to be disarmed. Everyone that wants you to be disarmed, you've said, okay, I'll do that, basically. You've said, I will be glad to do that. Just, there's just minor details we got to work out.
So she wants to ban assault weapons, high-capacity magazine, and bump stocks. It's clear that the Founding Fathers did not have assault weapons in mind when they wrote the Second Amendment.
The Founding Fathers specifically
It's clear that the Founding Fathers did not have the Internet in mind when they wrote the First Amendment. Fuck off.
Okay. Barring that argument... Not even just putting that very excellent argument aside. The Founding Fathers, the Founding Fathers specifically had using guns to assault people in mind when they did all of it, because the guns they had at the time were the most powerful assault tools they had available.
It's not just that, private cannon, the puckle gun. I mean, automatic weapons actually existed back then, and and like these people are like, no one could have ever imagined a gun that shoots repeatedly quickly. All that these people were able to do is write a document that completely defines our system of government. They could never have thought that things might change someday.
You know, I'm sure
they even came up. It's like, man, if they didn't think things might change, they probably should have put like a thing in the Constitution about how to like change it, like sort of like an amendment process. Because like, man, I would be happy to at least. I mean, I wouldn't be happy to obey, but I would at least admit that it's the law of the land. If the Constitution were amended to say that assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, and bump stocks are banned, but until that kind of thing is written into the Constitution, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, fuck off.
Look, Rudy, it's not like we ever had any huge change because of an amendment to the Constitution that had great and lasting impacts on society. It's not like they really could have thought this through to any degree where like even something that they approved of at the time could have changed over the course of time because of an amendment. They were probably too busy, worrying about other social issues of the time, like what to do about slavery. Oh wait, was there an amendment that said anything about slavery?
There may have been.
I mean, if that's the argument so there's two things here. If the argument you're going to make is that the founding fathers couldn't have foreseen any of this, then we have to draw back what we have amended in the Constitution for slavery. And just putting this out there, the founding fathers could not, when they envisioned the voting process, have possibly conceived of social democrats running for office.
That's true.
So we're going to have to change all that too.
Well, I mean,
back to monarchy.
I'm just looking at the next sentence in this paragraph, and I'm laughing and laughing and laughing.
Shoot, where are we? I don't even remember.
These machines of war were brought over to the civilian market in the 1980s alongside high-capacity magazines and dramatically increased the death toll of mass shootings where used. Okay, first off, first part, not true. The AR-15 dates back to the 50s, and it was a civilian rifle. It's just a semi-auto small caliber rifle. The AK-47, I mean, the civilian model of the AK-47 is maybe but it's. I mean, the M1 Garand was a semi-auto large caliber rifle that was available in the 40s and 50s. I mean. And that's even worse because she's conflating the death toll of mass shootings with the already stated death toll of like all gun violence in America except for suicides. But then she's failing to make the connection that of the 15,000 gun deaths that happen each year that aren't suicides, like 40 are from mass shootings. And so like already mass shootings are not a problem compared to everything else. So she's like, here's the thing. Almost no crimes, murders, etc. are committed with assault weapons. Like, if you look at the actual numbers, assault weapons are used... Rifles, all rifles together, are used in, like, about 1 or 2% of crimes that involve guns. So, the thing that's going on here is that she's basically nibbling. She's nibbling at something that looks scary in hopes that she can bite something later. She's nibbling at assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, and bump stocks in hopes that she can bite off handguns soon afterwards.
I really like how that paragraph ends because she started off talking about the founding fathers not having things in mind and how the Constitution is apparently too limiting. But then at the very end of the paragraph, she says that the assault weapons ban should be reinstated, strengthened, and made permanent.
like by amending the Constitution.
Yeah.
Require domestic abusers and stalkers to surrender their firearms. This is already law. Next.
Can we just skip that? No,
let's skip it. It's fine. It's already law. She doesn't know what she's talking about. It's already law. Mandate universal improved background checks for firearm purchases. Backdoor confiscation. Backdoor registration leading confiscation. Next. Require Congress people to take no money from the gun lobby or private equity companies that invest in the firearms industry. First Amendment, next.
We need to make sure Congress people are making laws to protect Americans and not the gun lobby. They don't. Okay, how many Congress people do you know that are making laws to protect the gun lobby?
0.
All right, thank you. Alexandria will work with the Democrats in Washington to overcome Republican resistance to life-saving, common-sense gun reform.
Okay, so it saves... Oh my god. It's 15,000 deaths due to gun violence, 500,000 to 3 million defensive gun uses in the same period.
Well, it sounds to me like this doesn't even make a difference, because, like... Okay, so if assault weapons are the biggest problem, and she...
They're not.
And no, if that's the biggest problem she sees, and her idea is to ban assault weapons, according to the numbers that you just gave us...
She reduces 15,000 to 14,850.
Yeah, and probably has zero effect on the people that are protecting themselves.
And she reduces the defensive gun uses from 500,000 to 400,000.
Is that really how many rifle defenses?
No, but I mean, like, you know, I'm saying that's probably going to have a... Okay, here's the thing about rifles. Rifles are very good for home defense, but, like, a gangbanger isn't going to carry a rifle around because it's not concealable. But I don't have to conceal rifles in my own home. I can just have them out, which means that they're available, which means that they're, like, handy, and they're accurate, they're powerful, and they're you know, and they're useful. Like it's. I mean, like I said, she doesn't actually care about banning assault weapons. What she cares about is nibbling away at the right until she can bite off the rest of it. And of course, you know, she basically pretends that this isn't an actual civil right when it totally is.
Well, you know, you've got to nibble away at that at the same time, though. You know, by saying things like the founding fathers didn't know what they were doing at the time. They could not have foreseen people using weapons to hurt each other.
They had no idea that such a thing could ever happen.
Like
having just fought a war against the strongest nation in the world, not 10 years earlier before the... Oh, what was it? 13, 14 years between the start of the War of Independence and the writing of the Constitution, 1776 to 1789.
Yeah, but could you imagine how many lives could have been saved if they had stricter gun control during that time? Like, instead of just letting people running around.
Gun control was what it was about. Like, they were trying to disarm the civilian militias in the U.S. They were trying to take their guns and powder. Americans fought back.
How did that end, by the way? Pretty good for the Americans, if I recall.
Well, I mean, decently. I mean, you know, we did. The Americans had to hire a bunch of mercenaries to help them out, and they had to organize an actual army.
Why didn't they just fund an army with $700 billion a year?
I don't think that. I think they were still under a gold standard.
Oh, okay.
Or at least some sort of precious metal standard. Maybe silver.
Bimetallism, maybe? That was in the 1800s, I believe.
There was definitely some bimetallism in the 1800s, yeah. But that was generally because of government forays into banking, which
yielded such positive results.
Yeah, usually they did.
All right, so I think we covered the gun thing. The gun thing hurts because we've done that one several times too, and it's just
the gun thing is just stupid. It's one of those really.
It's just someone jumping on the internet and like wait.
No, it's the insincerity of it that bugs me. It's like she doesn't actually care about gun deaths. She doesn't care about actual violence because she's just trying to disarm. The number of people who defend themselves with guns is greater than the number of people victimized.
It's virtue signaling that results in the death of others.
It's like she guilty. She calls the gun people guilty. Guilty without evidence, and then it's like the gun people are like, yeah, but then we can't defend ourselves. And she's like, yes, but even if you can't defend yourself, that doesn't reflect badly on me. It's like it totally does. It's the exact opposite side of the same coin. It's like you can't have it both ways. You can't have the people that want to defend themselves are the bad guys because they want to defend themselves. But then if we prevent them from defending themselves and they get hurt, we're not implicated in that at all. That's crazy talk. I don't even. How is that even? I mean, where'd you come up with an idea like that?
Okay, now I just got this image in my head of Ocasio-Cortez being just being like Alex Jones in a disguise, and he's got like multiple personalities. It's like on the one hand he's Alex Jones, and on the other he's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh my God, they both start with Alex.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's just like it's blatantly him, but he's just got a wig on. Not even.
And he there's like a jump cut in the camera to a different angle, and he's like pulling the wig off and talking in a different voice, and then he puts the wig back on, and there's another jump cut.
but like you see him put the wig on.
Yeah, you see it because it's a jump cut. It's like suddenly you're looking at him from a different angle, and he's pulling the wig off.
The funniest part is, though, I think that if you were to put them side by side and just like do a split screen television thing and just have them both talking at the same time, I think Alex Jones would probably come off as less of a nut than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
It depends on what Alex Jones is talking about. Alex Jones has a very large dynamic range in that respect.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll be like, yeah, they're spying on us with the NSA, and then sometimes he'll be like, they're making the frogs gay, and then sometimes he'll be like. And the funny thing is that there's actually like a nugget of like truth to the making the frogs gay thing, because there was like some chemical that was making frogs hermaphroditic or something like that.
Yeah,
I know. Put in the water somewhere, and it was like not like an actual like big deal, but it was.
But you have to like build up to that. You have to like slowly introduce that.
He even has the stuff that's even worse, where it's like space aliens or the government's making the pot stronger so that something is like, okay, dude, calm down.
Listen, the giants that live on the other side of the moon will tell Alex Jones when it's time to stop. I'm sure of that.
You're probably right.
Until then,
are we sure that they're giants?
I'm semi sure that they're giants. I mean, where do you think all those mounds come from?
I mean, I don't want to say that they're giants if they're not giants. Could we just say that they might be giants?
Yes, we can say that.
All right.
I mean, they're certainly bigger than I mean, you definitely couldn't call them a particle man.
No. They're much larger than that.
Yeah. And if we just had one more that we could connect.
We should. Oh God! You know what you could do is you could take video of Alex Jones ranting and take video of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ranting and put it on a split screen, but switch their voices.
Well, no, I mean it would be funny enough to just like put them on a split screen and set it up so that they're having an argument with each other, because they're both so crazy that nobody would actually realize that argument wasn't making any sense.
Like they actually are arguing with each other, but you switch their voices so that all of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's points come out of Alex Jones's mouth, and all of Alex Jones's points come out of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's mouth, and it's just like this surreal thing where like the video is like 3 seconds off, and they're just yelling back and forth.
So if you're out there, people of YouTube, if one of you itinerant, random searching YouTube people comes across this video and happens to watch far enough into it to get to this point, and here's this solid gold right there, all for you.
Oh man, it would be perfect. That shit would be viral as hell.
All right, so
let's move on. Criminal justice reform, end private prisons.
All right, let's see what we got here. It is. I'm going to go in with a clean slate, open mind on this one. It is time to reform our criminal justice system to be safer for everyone.
Except the innocent.
Except the innocent. Oh, no. I'm going to try and keep an open mind here.
Keep an open mind?
Alexandria, you don't have to. I will. I'll bite that bullet. Well, I want to keep an open mind about gun control, so we won't use bullets here either.
you shouldn't keep an open mind about gun control. It's really...
That's how you get shot.
Well, it's not how you get shot. It's how you become a tyrant.
Or a target. One or the other.
Well, tyrants are targets.
I would hope so.
That's kind of what guns are for.
It all comes full triangle, man. I mean circle. Alexandria believes in ending mass incarceration and the war on drugs, and closing the school-to-prison pipeline. All right, well, so far so good.
Yeah.
Alexandria supports the federal legalization of marijuana, but only that?
Only
just
that.
asking, as someone who's looking at this with an open
So
mind.
she doesn't want to actually end the war on drugs. She just wants to end the war on one more drug.
While simultaneously making like 5 others, going to war on 5 others.
Well, just not ending the war on the 5 others.
Like in the vast expanse of the Middle East of drugs, we're just going to say that we're cool now with Libya.
Yeah, but not any of the other ones nearby.
Yeah. The meth lab that is Syria is still a problem.
The heroin, the opium poppies in Iran are still an issue that we need to deal with.
The LSD chamber that is Israel. I don't know.
Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates.
Look at that building, man! It's so tall. Oh man, that building's the tallest building.
Oh, look at all those flags.
Oh my god,
They're
man.
all wavy.
They're all wavy.
Those are the statues, dude.
Oh man, those statues look
I thought they were
real.
spiders.
They might be spiders.
Let's see. So, the release of individuals incarcerated for non-violent drug offenses, the end of cash bail. What? Oh God! This is like a veiled attack on holding cash, isn't it?
No. The end of cash bail is basically like.
Oh no!
You can't pay.
It's implying that like people who have cash on hand to be able to bail themselves out are.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's basically saying that there will no longer be bail that you have to pay for.
Oh, okay. So it's the opposite of what I was thinking.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, then I have little to complain about there. Let's see. And automatic.
Well, I mean, except that, like, I don't know. I mean, if you weren't a libertarian, you could say that putting a price on someone getting out of jail to encourage them to come to their trial might be a good idea.
I guess maybe, but
if,
I mean, like,
if you weren't a libertarian, like if some guy is like a serial killer and they catch him and they're like, yeah, we're pretty sure this guy's a serial killer, but we haven't convicted him yet, and they're like, okay, well, you're free to go on your own recognizance. You think he's gonna come to his trial?
I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the one point where bail at least is like, maybe this is a good idea.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess in those cases you would just want to say no bail because.
I mean,
don't know
that's
if
what I
she's
would have
for
thought.
that or
Like
not.
when it gets to the point where it's
I
like
don't
you
know.
may have killed 20 people, and we just kind
We're
of
pretty sure you killed 20 people.
we kind of want to hold on to you for just a little while to make sure that you didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that, like,
I mean, when you think about it like that, then consider the things that you would logically let people post bail for. If you feel safe enough that you would let them pay on the promise of coming to trial, I almost feel like you wouldn't be too concerned that they wouldn't show up. Like
it depends. I mean, it's something that's worth talking about and worth arguing, but not now.
yeah, we can save that one for another video, because now that I'm thinking about it, it's like there's what's the type of person that might not show up for their trial? It's someone that probably
A person who is guilty.
well no, I mean but if it's someone that you would actually let go but is also guilty and wouldn't show up for their trial, like what did they do, steal a candy bar or something? So like, okay, so we just got to go find this guy, what's the level at which you just
It's a valid question, but like, I don't know. It's like we'd have to draw some Venn diagrams or something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Automatic independent investigations each and every time an individual is killed by law enforcement.
that would be nice.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, if they're actually independent and not just like lynch mobs.
Yeah.
We must also fully fund the offices of public defenders, decriminalize poverty, question mark, end arbitration clauses that shield corporate abuses of everyday Americans, question mark. She knows what an arbitration clause is, right? like it's part of a
Yeah.
voluntary contract, right?
It's like I signed this because I didn't need this protection.
I chose to give this protection away for the things that I'm getting in compensation for that.
You know, she probably, as a person that's in politics, she probably has to, from time to time, sign a non-disclosure agreement. She should be aware of how these things work.
She is probably no. She's like, what is she like? Just barely old enough to actually get into to Congress? Like, no, she lived her whole life in New York and she doesn't know anything.
Yeah, good point. She probably doesn't know how any of this works.
She probably has a Che Guevara shirt.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Boy, let's see.
Provide comprehensive mental health care to both incarcerated communities and law enforcement.
Well, okay, so I just want to point out the inherent joke in that sentence about law enforcement needing comprehensive mental health care.
Well, they definitely do. I mean,
let's
see. Mass incarceration is the latest iteration of a long line of policies rooted in the marginalization of African Americans and people of color. Comprehensive criminal justice reform is part of the work that must be done to heal our past and pursue racial justice in the United States.
All right.
Right. So,
do we want to open that can of worms, or?
Hey, what color are those worms, man? You a racist? You're a racist, aren't you? Racist, Nazi.
Yes, on all counts.
So redlining. So it's interesting. That
Listen, I may be accused
that she lumps Jim Crow in with redlining. Jim Crow was government policy that required people to discriminate by way of race. Redlining was a way that banks basically chose areas that were not places that could be safely invested in, and they weren't specifically based on race, but they were based on, impoverishment and inability to actually make, like, if people come and shoot your house every 3 days, you're not going to invest in that house. You're not going to give that person a mortgage. You're like, get a mortgage somewhere else, man. Get a mortgage somewhere where the house isn't going to be, I mean, it's a 30-year mortgage, and the house is only going to last 10 years because people keep shooting it. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, we're talking like 5 shootings at your house a month. I'm just saying, this might not be the ideal situation.
We as a bank are not comfortable in giving you $100,000 and hoping that you pay it back in 30 years.
Or that you're alive to pay it back.
That's also
tomorrow.
A possible problem. Yeah. I mean, this she's conflating something that is involuntary with something that is voluntary in an effort to blur the lines so that so that these things appear similar to idiots who might vote for her. So,
and again, I don't want to pick all the nits, but Jim Crow was legislation.
Yeah, it was government requiring people to discriminate in specific ways. Redlining was a voluntary process that holders of capital used to help decide how to invest their capital safely. Especially since it's not actually their capital. Most of these banks are consumer banks, where the money that they're lending out for the mortgages is your deposit.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. At some point, I'm just going to start demanding that people who speak of these things to me explain to themselves what exactly the problem is that they have with libertarians, because the Social Democrats want to legislate just as much as any other party, as far as I can tell.
Just in a slightly different way.
And it looks to me like this is where all these problems are coming from. I mean... like everyone points to...
Mises pointed this out 70 or 80 years ago, where he's like, yeah, the problem with government intervention in the market is that one intervention supposedly fixes one problem, but it creates 2 more. And then you fix those other 2 problems with interventions, and now you have 4 problems. And then you fix those, and now you have 8 problems, etc.
And eventually you get back to the racism, no matter how you work it.
Racism. Slavery.
I mean, nowadays they don't call it racism as much. I mean, it's
They call everything racism as much.
Not when it comes to legislation.
I think I was walking down the street and I saw a man point at one of the fire hydrants and call it racist.
Well, that was probably.
And then he hit it with a bike lock.
Oh, that was probably just someone angry at someone giving Star Wars: The Last Jedi a bad review.
I guess that's possible. Or he's just in need of comprehensive mental care in a free house.
Yeah, he was probably a police officer.
He could have been a police officer.
Immigration justice and abolish ICE. Oh, what, does she got a problem with water?
Yeah, she doesn't like water in its solid form, only in its liquid form. Or possibly vapor.
So she's pro vaping.
She's the vapor candidate.
I wouldn't be surprised. But I would question what she's actually inhaling.
ICE, clear the path to citizenship, and protect the rights of families to remain together.
All right, I want to know
ICE
what...
was created in 2003, same suite of post-9/11 legislation as Patriot Act, Iraq War, unchecked expansion of executive powers, erosion of civil rights, prior immigration enforcement under INS. ICE operates outside the scope of the Department of Justice, unaccountable to standards of due process. I don't know that they're actually unaccountable to our nation's standards of due process. I think that that's just what government does, is kind of erode due process as a matter of course.
Are they... I mean, how are they related to the Department of Justice? Because wouldn't they had to have delegated those powers to ICE, which would be the reason they're outside the scope?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that if those powers had stayed as part of the INS, that the INS wouldn't also be screwing with due process by now.
Yeah, it's just, you're just shifting around who has...
Yeah, it's just shifting the blame and being like, oh, but if they were part of the Department of Justice, they'd be so accountable. It's like,
yeah, we've seen the Department
no.
of Justice be very accountable in the past 10 years.
Yeah, they're very accountable, especially since they can rule in their own favor.
That's always a nice gig.
Now we see the consequences. Young children are being ripped from their parents and kept in detention centers without due process and without accountability to Congress.
How much of that?
Now we see the consequences. Young children are being killed by drones and shot repeatedly in the Middle East without due process. I mean, maybe that's her next bullet point.
Maybe.
So far, we haven't seen anything about drone bombing American citizens overseas.
She did want to get people out of the wars.
And the best part is that she says ripped for their parents when it's like, do you know what a coyote is? that it's a human trafficker. They traffic humans, people, like children. And then they say that they're the children's parents in order to get preferential treatment. I mean, it's like, how much you want to bet that she has a post in here that's against like sex trafficking? But then she's like, well, we're ripping these children from their parents or the sex traffickers who are transporting them across the border for the purposes of monetary gain. Either or.
I mean, there may be some of that going on. I won't say that we necessarily have any evidence of that anywhere.
I don't know what the numbers are, but like it's certainly something that's at least within the realm of possibility. And like, you know, incentives can shift these things around. Like if you're like anyone who comes across the border with a child is like gets a free green card. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go kidnap somebody. I'll be right back.
As overseen by the Trump administration, ICE operates with virtually no accountability. Haven't people just like done nothing but like attack like she's doing it now. Like ICE has been in the news a lot recently. I think that someone is at least scrutinizing them.
She calls the detention centers inhumane when it's like there's plenty of footage of these detention centers and they're definitely not inhumane. They're not like palaces, but they're not like
so she's a social democrat. Like, so her idea of inhumane is are things that are like several thousand times better than the conditions these kids probably came from.
God! The next sentence. Alex believes that if we are she's calling herself Alex now. It's getting closer.
Our own conspiracy theory is coming true. I wish I could do the voice because then I would.
Alex believes that if we are to uphold civic justice, we must abolish ICE and see to it that our undocumented neighbors are treated with the dignity and respect owed to all gay frogs. Let's see.
Yeah, so I guess the answer.
I
guess the answer to the arm of justice that is preventing people from coming over the border willy-nilly and just here's a green card and do whatever you want. I guess the answer to having someone who prevents that from happening is to completely get rid of someone who's preventing that from happening. Like, there's no in between here. There's no gray area where it's like, do we watch our borders at all, or do we just let everyone through? And there's one or the other. There's nothing in between.
There's no middle ground because Trump.
I'm sold.
Yeah, there we go. All right, next up, solidarity with Puerto Rico. We're only halfway done with this.
Oh my God! I thought we were cruising through it for a minute there.
We have been cruising through it, but we're already been at it for over an hour. We might want to do some more of this next time or something. This is.
Do you want to call it quits now since we're about to start another one?
Oh wow, Puerto Rico's a long one. Yeah, let's do Puerto Rico next time.
Okay.
This is crazy.
Right, this is Alexandria Jones signing off, I guess.
With the gay frogs.
Da-da-da-da-da.